I never thought I'd be the one telling this story. As an emergency room nurse for 15 years, I've witnessed countless moments between life and death, but nothing could have prepared me for what happened on that foggy April morning in 2023. My name is Sarah Coleman, and for 12 minutes, I was clinically dead. Before I share what I experienced in those moments beyond the veil, you should know who I am. I'm a single mother to 8-year-old James, raising him alone since my husband Michael's fatal car accident 3 years ago. The irony of how similar my near-death experience would be to his passing isn't lost on me. The difference is, I came back with a message that would shake the foundations of everything I believed. In the ER, I've always been the voice of reason. When grieving families spoke of seeing their loved ones in near-death experiences, I offered compassionate smiles while silently dismissing their stories as hallucinations brought on by trauma. Science, facts, and measurable data. These were my anchors in a profession where we dance with death daily. That morning started like any other. James had a soccer game the previous evening, and I couldn't sleep, my mind racing with the endless to-do list of a single working mother. Bills to pay, parent-teacher conferences to attend, grocery shopping that couldn't wait another day. The ordinary concerns that seem so trivial now. I remember checking my watch before stepping out for my morning jog. 5:12 a.m. The streetlights were still on, casting long shadows through the light fog that blanketed our neighborhood. The air was crisp, carrying that distinct pre-dawn stillness that makes you feel like you're the only person awake in the world. I thought about my father as I jogged. He'd passed away from cancer when I was 16, and that loss had driven me into nursing. I wanted to save others from experiencing the helplessness I felt watching him slip away. If only I'd known I would see him again so soon, in circumstances I never could have imagined. The last thing I remember was the sound of tires on wet pavement and the glare of headlights emerging from the fog. Then came 12 minutes that would change not just my life, but carry a message for all of humanity. What I'm about to share isn't a story of science fiction or religious fantasy. It's an experience that has been documented in my medical records, witnessed by the first responders who brought me back, and verified by the countless medical professionals who've studied my case since then. The driver who hit me, distracted by a text message, became an unwitting participant in something far greater than a tragic accident. This is my testimony, not just as a medical professional, but as someone who has seen what lies beyond, and more importantly, what's coming for all of us. The details of that morning are etched into my memory with painful clarity. I had been tossing and turning all night, my mind replaying scenes from James's soccer game where he scored his first goal. As any single parent knows, these small victories feel monumental. I had promised him pancakes for breakfast to celebrate, but first, I needed to clear my head with my usual morning run. Our neighborhood was always peaceful at that hour. The Victorian houses lined up like silent sentinels, their windows dark except for the occasional early riser. The maple trees that lined Cedar Street were just beginning to bud, their branches casting intricate shadows under the streetlights. The fog had rolled in from the river, thick enough to muffle sounds, but not dense enough to be dangerous, or so I thought. I followed my regular route, down Cedar Street, past St. Michael's Church, and toward River Road. My running shoes made a steady rhythm against the damp pavement, and my breath came out in small clouds in the cool air. My watch showed 5:12 a.m. when I started, and I remember thinking I had plenty of time to shower and make those promised pancakes before James woke up. The intersection of River Road and Maple Street was usually quiet at this hour. I had crossed it hundreds of times during my morning runs. I followed my usual routine. Stop, look left, look right, then left again. The fog had thinned slightly, and visibility was about 50 feet in each direction. I saw no headlights, heard no engines. I stepped off the curb. Later, the police report would show that the driver, Lisa Martinez, had been awake for 20 hours straight after a double shift at the local factory. She was checking a text message from her babysitter when her silver Honda Civic drifted into the intersection. She never saw me. I never saw her. The impact itself is a blur, but I remember distinct sensations. The screech of tires on wet pavement, a flash of silver through the fog, and an odd moment of weightlessness. Time seemed to slow down. I had enough time to think about James, still asleep in his race car bed, clutching the stuffed giraffe his father had given him before the accident. I thought about the pancakes I wouldn't make, the parent-teacher conference I would miss, and strangely, about a patient I had treated the day before. A young man with a broken arm who had been so afraid of needles. Then came the pain, sharp and overwhelming, as my body hit the pavement. I heard screaming. Whether it was mine or Lisa's, I'm still not sure. The fog swirled around me, and the streetlights began to blur and fade. I could taste blood in my mouth, and my chest felt like it was being crushed in a vice. The last thing I remember before everything changed was Lisa's face appearing above me, illuminated by the flashing hazard lights of her car. She was crying, repeating, I'm sorry, over and over. I wanted to tell her it was okay, that accidents happen, that I forgave her, but I couldn't speak. The darkness was closing in, and with it came a sensation I had never experienced before. A profound sense of letting go. That's when the 12 minutes began. The transition wasn't what I expected. There was no tunnel of light, no floating above my body, watching the paramedics work. Instead, it felt like stepping through a veil I never knew existed. The pain vanished first, not gradually, but in an instant, as if someone had flipped a switch. The crushing weight in my chest, the metallic taste of blood, the cold, wet pavement against my back, all gone. In their place came the most profound peace I've ever known. I found myself in what I can only describe as pure light, not blinding or harsh, but warm and embracing, like being wrapped in sunlight on a perfect spring morning. The light seemed to have substance, texture, and even what I would call intelligence. It moved and flowed around me with purpose, as if it were alive and aware. The colors were unlike anything in our world. I remember thinking how limited our earthly spectrum suddenly seemed. These colors had depth and meaning. They sang with their own kind of music. The closest I can come to describing it would be like seeing the sound of joy or hearing the color of love, but even that falls desperately short. The air itself felt different. On Earth, we breathe without thinking, but here each breath felt like drinking pure life. It filled not just my lungs, but my entire being with clarity and understanding. Time seemed to lose all meaning. I could have been there for a moment or an eternity. Both felt equally true. My thoughts were crystal clear, sharper than they'd ever been. Every memory, every experience of my life seemed accessible and interconnected. I understood things about myself and my life with perfect clarity. Why I had become a nurse, how losing my father had shaped me, how my fear of abandonment had affected my relationships. Then I became aware of music, though calling it music seems inadequate. It wasn't coming from anywhere specific, it was everywhere and everything. Imagine the most beautiful symphony you've ever heard, combined with the laugh of a child, the whisper of wind through trees, and the steady rhythm of waves on a shore. But even that description falls short. The music seemed to be the very language of existence itself. I felt no fear. As an ER nurse, I had always imagined death would be frightening, but in that moment I understood that what we call death is merely a transition, a doorway from one form of existence to another. All the fears and anxieties that had governed my life on Earth, single parenthood, financial struggles, career pressures, seemed small and distant, like watching storm clouds from high above them. In this space, I felt completely known and completely loved. Every flaw, every mistake, every regret I carried was seen and accepted. The shame and guilt I had carried about not being with my husband Michael when he died, about sometimes resenting single parenthood, about the times I had been less than perfect with James, all of it was understood and forgiven. Then I sensed a presence approaching. It wasn't walking or moving in any physical sense, but I felt it drawing near with deliberate purpose. The light around me seemed to gather and intensify, and I knew with absolute certainty who it was before I saw him. My father. He looked exactly as I remembered him from before the cancer took hold. Strong, vital, with that gentle smile that could make any problem seem manageable. But there was something more to him now, a kind of radiance that suggested he was both himself and something greater. As he drew closer, I realized this meeting was not just a reunion. It was preparation for what was to come. "Sarah," my father said, his voice exactly as I remembered, that warm, gentle tone that had guided me through childhood. Yet now it carried a depth and resonance that seemed to echo through my very being. He stood before me, wearing the brown tweed jacket he had always favored, looking exactly as he did before the cancer began to ravage his body. His eyes held the same kindness I remembered, but now they carried a wisdom that seemed boundless. The sight of him, healthy, whole, and radiating peace, brought forth emotions I hadn't allowed myself to feel in years. "Dad," I managed to say, though speaking felt different here, more like projecting thoughts than forming words. "I've missed you so much, James. He asks about you. I show him pictures, tell him stories, but I wish—" "I know, sweetheart," he interrupted gently. "I've seen him. I've seen you both. You've done beautifully with him, even when you thought you were failing." Tears formed, though they felt different from earthly tears, more like pure emotion taking form. "I wasn't ready when you left," I confessed. "There was so much I needed to tell you, to ask you. The day you died, I was stuck in traffic, and I never got to say goodbye." My father's smile deepened with understanding. "Time doesn't work here the way it does there, Sarah. Every unsaid word, every unshared moment, they're all known and understood. But right now, there's something more important you need to see." He reached out and took my hand. The touch was unlike any physical contact I'd known on Earth. It felt like our souls were connecting. In that instant, I understood everything he had ever tried to teach me, every worry he'd carried for me, every proud moment he'd experienced as my father. No words were needed. The knowledge simply flowed between us. "Your work isn't finished," he said softly. "You have a purpose that's about to become clear. What you're about to experience, it's why you were chosen for this moment." "Chosen?" I asked, sudden uncertainty creeping in. "Dad, I'm just a nurse, a single mother trying to get by. I'm nobody special." His expression grew serious, though his eyes remained gentle. "That's exactly why you were chosen, Sarah. Your doubt, your struggles, your humanity, these make you perfect for what's coming. He's waiting to show you." I knew instantly who my father meant by he. "Will I see you again?" I asked, feeling like a small child afraid of being left alone. "I'm always with you, more than you know," he replied. "But now you need to focus. What you're about to learn, it's not just for you, it's for everyone." The light around us began to shift and gather, taking on a new quality that made my father's presence seem dimmer in comparison. He squeezed my hand one last time, and in that touch was every "I love you" we had ever shared and would ever share. "Be brave," he said, stepping back as the light intensified. "And remember, everything you've been through has prepared you for this moment." As my father's form faded into the surrounding radiance, I felt another presence approaching. One that made my soul tremble with recognition. As my father's presence faded, the surrounding light transformed into something altogether different. The warmth intensified, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It felt like being embraced by pure love. The atmosphere became charged with what I can only describe as holy anticipation. Then he was there. No dramatic entrance, no thunderous announcement, simply present, as if he had always been there, and I was only now able to perceive him. His presence was overwhelming yet gentle, powerful yet intimate. The love that radiated from him made everything I had previously understood about love seem like a shadow of the real thing. When our eyes met, I felt completely known. Not just my actions and thoughts, but every intention, every fear, every hope I had ever held. It was like having my entire life laid bare, yet feeling no shame or judgment, only perfect understanding and acceptance. His appearance wasn't what artists typically portray. He didn't match any painting or statue I'd ever seen in churches. His face held both strength and gentleness, authority and compassion. His eyes contained depths of wisdom that seemed to hold the weight of all creation, yet sparkled with what I can only describe as joy. "Sarah," he said, and my name in his voice felt like a healing balm. "My child, you have carried many burdens." I wanted to kneel, to bow, to hide my face, but found myself unable to move. Not out of fear, but because his presence held me transfixed. "Your questions about Michael's death, your worries for James, your doubts about your worth, I have seen them all," he continued. "Every tear you've shed in the night, every silent prayer you thought went unheard, I was there. Memories flooded through me. Nights spent crying after Michael's death, moments of doubt about my ability to raise James alone, times when my faith wavered in the face of suffering I witnessed in the ER. In his presence, each memory was transformed from a source of pain into a testament of survival. Lord, I managed to say, though speaking felt inadequate, I'm not worthy. Worthiness isn't earned, Sarah, it's given. His voice carried both authority and tenderness. You were chosen not despite your doubts, but because of them. Your struggles have given you compassion. Your pain has taught you empathy. Your questions have kept you seeking truth. He stepped closer, and the air itself seemed to pulse with life and purpose. There are things you need to see, messages you must carry back. The time is drawing near, and my people need to be prepared. But why me? I asked. I'm just a nurse, not a prophet or a preacher. His smile held such love that it brought fresh tears to my eyes. You are exactly who you need to be. Your profession has taught you to observe carefully, to report accurately, to care deeply. These gifts will serve you well in what's to come. He raised his hand, and the space around us began to shift. I will show you 4 events that are approaching. Watch carefully, remember faithfully, and share boldly. Do not be afraid. I will give you the words when the time comes. The light around us intensified, and I felt myself being drawn into what I can only describe as a vision within a vision. What I witnessed next would change not only my understanding of the future, but of reality itself. The first vision began to unfold before me with striking clarity. Jesus' presence remained constant as he guided me through each revelation. The great distraction. The scene opened to a panoramic view of cities across the world. People walked the streets, sat in cafes, and gathered in homes, but something was terribly wrong. Despite their physical proximity, there was a profound disconnection. Parents sat at dinner tables, eyes fixed on screens, while their children sought attention. Couples in restaurants spoke to their devices rather than each other. In parks, children played alone, while their caregivers scrolled endlessly. This is the first sign, Jesus said, his voice heavy with concern. My children have become captive to devices that promise connection but deliver isolation. They seek validation through screens while missing the real connections I've placed before them. Families fragment, friendships wither, and souls grow hungry while feeding on emptiness. I watched as people moved through their lives like shadows, missing moments of beauty and connection. A sunset went unnoticed, a child's first steps were missed, a friend's tears went unseen, all lost to the hypnotic glow of screens. The Great Deception. The second vision shifted dramatically. The sky erupted with magnificent displays, lights and signs that defied natural explanation. Charismatic figures emerged, speaking with compelling eloquence about unity, peace, and spiritual enlightenment. Their words carried a seductive power, drawing even faithful believers into questioning fundamental truths. Watch carefully, Jesus instructed. These signs and wonders will test even the strongest faith. Many will be deceived because they will choose comfortable lies over challenging truth. The deception will come wrapped in righteousness, speaking peace while sowing discord. I observed as these leaders mixed truth with subtle distortions, using familiar religious language while slowly leading people away from authentic faith. Their influence spread through media, culture, and even religious institutions, creating a form of spirituality that demanded no sacrifice and promised no transformation. The Great Awakening. The third vision brought hope. It began as small gatherings, people meeting in homes, offices, and unexpected places, drawn together by an overwhelming sense of spiritual hunger. Prayer became passionate and purposeful. Worship transformed from routine to revelation. Communities began to transcend traditional barriers of denomination, culture, and class. This is my response, Jesus said, his voice filled with joy. When the darkness seems strongest, I will pour out my spirit. Those who have ears to hear will recognize my voice. Those who seek truth will find it. The awakening spread like fire, but not without cost. Those who embraced this authentic faith faced increasing opposition. Some lost jobs, others faced rejection from family members, and some encountered physical persecution. Yet their joy remained unshaken, their faith undiminished. The Great Return. The final vision was overwhelming in its magnitude. The sky itself seemed to tear open, revealing glory that defied description. Jesus showed me his return, not as a distant theological concept, but as a tangible reality that would shake the foundations of every human institution and belief system. "This is the culmination," he said. "Every prophecy fulfilled, every promise kept. None will debate my existence then. None will question my authority. But for many, it will be too late to choose relationship with me." I witnessed as every knee bowed, some in joyful worship, others in reluctant acknowledgement. The sight was both beautiful and terrible, filled with reunion and regret, celebration and sorrow. After showing me these visions, Jesus turned to me with intense focus. "These events are not meant to bring fear, but preparation. Tell my people that distractions can be overcome through intentional connection, with me and with each other. Tell them that deception is defeated through knowledge of truth, not through arguments but through relationship with me. Tell them that awakening comes at a price, but brings rewards beyond measure. And tell them that my return is not just an event to wait for, but a reality to live toward." I felt the weight of this responsibility settling on my shoulders. How will people believe me? I'm not a religious leader or scholar. "Speak what you have seen," he replied. "Some will dismiss your words, others will debate their meaning, but those who are seeking truth will recognize it. Your role is not to convince, but to testify. Remember, these visions are not about fear, but hope. They are an invitation to wake up, to return to authentic faith, to prepare for what is coming." The visions faded, but their impact remained branded on my heart. I understood that these weren't just predictions about future events, but warnings about present choices and their consequences. Each vision connected to the others, forming a complete picture of both challenge and hope. As the visions faded, Jesus placed his hand upon my shoulder. His touch carried both authority and tenderness, and I felt strength flowing into my weary spirit. "Sarah," he said, "you have seen what many have longed to see. But with this knowledge comes responsibility. These messages are not meant to create fear or speculation, but to awaken hope and preparation in the hearts of my people." He continued, his voice carrying the weight of divine purpose. "When you return, many will question your experience. Some will dismiss it, others will try to analyze it through earthly wisdom. Remember, your task is not to defend but to testify. Share what you have witnessed with humility and courage." Then his expression softened, and he spoke of matters closer to my heart. "Your concerns about James, your fears about being a single mother, I see them all. Trust that I am with you both. The path ahead will not be easy, but you will never walk it alone." He paused, and I felt his words penetrating deep to my soul. The time is coming when every soul will need to choose, not between religion and secularism, but between truth and comfort, between authentic faith and convenient belief. Your experience here will help others make that choice. Suddenly I felt a pull, gentle but insistent. The brilliant light began to dim, and a familiar heaviness started returning to my limbs. Jesus' presence remained strong, but I could sense the physical world beckoning. "It's time for you to return," he said. "Remember, you carry these messages not as a burden, but as a gift. Share them with love, speak them with grace. The world needs nurses who can tend to both body and soul." The transition back was not gentle. First came the pain, sharp, immediate, and overwhelming. The perfect peace of heaven gave way to the harsh reality of broken bones and traumatic injury. The first sensation was the cold wetness of the pavement against my back, then the metallic taste of blood in my mouth. I heard voices, urgent and professional, the paramedics working over my body. The pressure of chest compressions, the shock of the defibrillator, the rush of oxygen into my lungs. Each sensation was a reminder of the physical world I was returning to. "We've got a pulse," someone shouted. "She's back." Opening my eyes, I saw the concerned faces of the medical team, the flashing lights of the ambulance, the gathering crowd of onlookers. The early morning fog had lifted, and the first rays of sunrise were breaking through the clouds. I tried to speak, to share what I had witnessed, but my body wasn't ready. Yet in that moment of return, I felt a deep certainty. This was only the beginning. The recovery process following my experience defied medical expectations. Despite severe trauma from the accident, my healing progressed at a remarkable pace. The doctors were particularly surprised by my mental clarity and emotional stability, given the severity of the incident. My colleagues at the emergency room approached my return with a mixture of professional curiosity and personal concern. As medical professionals, they struggled to reconcile my account with their scientific training. Yet they couldn't deny the profound change they observed in my demeanor and approach to patient care. The most significant challenge was sharing my experience with James. How does one explain such an encounter to an 8-year-old? One evening, as we sat together looking at photos of his grandfather, I began carefully sharing pieces of my story. His response surprised me. Children often grasp spiritual truths with a simplicity that adults have forgotten. "Did Grandpa look happy, Mom?" he asked. When I confirmed that his grandfather was indeed happy and at peace, James smiled and said, "That's good. Now you don't have to be sad anymore when you look at his pictures." Lisa Martinez, the driver who hit me, came to visit during my recovery. Instead of the anticipated awkwardness, our meeting became a moment of unexpected healing. The accident had left her grappling with guilt and anxiety. Sharing my experience with her brought a measure of peace neither of us expected. Returning to work in the emergency room, I found my approach to patient care transformed. Beyond the necessary medical procedures, I gained a deeper understanding of the fear and uncertainty patients face when confronting mortality. My experience gave me a unique perspective in comforting both patients and their families during critical moments. The most profound impact, however, has been internal. The urgency of the message I received grows stronger as time passes. Each day brings new evidence of the approaching events I witnessed. The increasing isolation caused by technology, the subtle deceptions infiltrating spiritual discussions, and the stirring of authentic faith in unexpected places all confirm the visions I was shown. My role has become clear: to share these messages not with sensationalism or fear, but with hope and purpose. The knowledge of what's coming carries with it the responsibility to help others prepare, not through panic or withdrawal, but through deepening their spiritual awareness and authentic connections with others. In our fast-paced world, where screens mediate our relationships and time seems to slip through our fingers, we often forget what truly matters. As a single mother and ER nurse who experienced death for 12 minutes, I've seen beyond the veil of our daily distractions. Think about the last time you truly connected with your children without a phone between you. Remember when Sunday dinners meant conversations instead of silent scrolling? When was the last time you looked into your spouse's eyes and really listened? The message I received isn't about fear or judgment. It's about awakening to the precious moments we're missing. Your teenager's untold struggles, your aging parents' unspoken words, your partner's silent prayers. These are the connections that define our humanity. We're approaching a critical moment in history where our choices today will echo into eternity. But change doesn't require grand gestures. It starts with putting down our phones during dinner, turning off notifications during family time, and choosing authentic relationships over digital validation. The time we have with our loved ones isn't guaranteed. Let's not wait for a near-death experience to realize what truly matters. The greatest deception isn't what's happening in the world. It's believing we have time to postpone these vital connections.